servers are currently busy. All right. We are live. I believe we are live.
We're live on my end.
We are live on Monero Talk with Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister. I'm sorry, I just always wanted to say this. I love your line. The Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. He's live. The question is he also a Monero Meister? So that's what we hope to find out today on the show. We're not live over here?
See, on my end, we're live. It says live on my end. So
that's interesting. I think it's only allowing one of us to go live.
No. Try it again.
Yeah, because on my end it says live as well.
It's on his channel though.
So it's live on your channel.
Yeah, it's live on his channel.
Yeah, no, I think because it's only giving me the option to stop the live stream. Because I guess you hit the button before I did.
Oh man! I thought we were going to do the unprecedented double live here. Wait a second.
So I've taken over the Adam Meister channel. This is now the Monero Meister channel.
No, pound that like guys. Wait a second. Wait. Are you sure it's not? It's click. Try it again. Put your.
It won't let me. It doesn't give me the option because you already put your key in. So it's. We were trying to do two keys at once. Apparently, you can't do that because my only option is to stop live stream.
Oh my God, we got people in the top. People are asking, hello, my elite friends. We're trying something. These guys are awesome at Monero Talk. First of all, I want to say this is the ultimate example of being in motion. They taught me how to use this Jitsi thing that is going to allow me to do these live interviews again. But they're supposed to be interviewing me live on their channel. We were going to do it on both channels at the same time. So you're seeing a little bit behind the scenes here. So how should we proceed with this? You want it on your channel, obviously. You want to do a live stream.
Whatever. I mean, I guess we could just post it after.
Well, we could do maybe we could do half and half or something. You could ask me. We could do two different shows, maybe. What's everyone think? We got people interested already. We got people watching, which is good.
Let's leave it as this. Leave the flow. No. The point is to just have a show, right? So
but the thing is, but how about after in the middle of it we stop it and then we go to your channel? We'll tell everyone. That's great. It's a great way to get people to your channel. So guys, we're going to do the first half of the show on here, and then link to below is his Twitter, and it's Monero Talk, and then just go over there and go to the second show. We'll tweet out the second show over there.
Beautiful.
So it'll be a double header. So do it, and obviously you can upload this on your channel afterwards. This part, this number one.
Beautiful.
We're at right here.
Yeah. Why can't everybody in the crypto sphere be so amenable and work so well together? I mean, as well as we are, right?
That is a great point. This is an example of compete. Don't complain. And we're actually not competing. We're cooperating. We're not against each other. He likes Monero. I like Bitcoin. He wanted to get my opinion on it. And now we're figuring out how to get all of us to be happy. Two shows instead of one. So this is great. We're being very productive here. Pound the like button, people. All right, take it over.
Yeah, man. So thanks for coming on or allowing me to come on your show. So I've been watching you for quite some time. I started off as a Monero maximalist, and still am to some degree. I consider myself kind of a digital cash maximalist. So trying to figure out which one is digital cash. Initially, that started with Bitcoin. My belief is totally and only in Bitcoin, and then I slowly arrived at Monero. So I would love to question you on that. But first, I want to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, just a little bit about your history in crypto. I did a quick. I never sorted your videos by oldest to newest, so I did that today before we jumped on. I was just curious, and I know you had spoken about Baltimore, things you had done in Baltimore at one time or another. I had heard in some videos, but I didn't realize how much. So I went back and I looked. And if you just want to talk a little bit about your history of how you got into, because you were a YouTuber before you were a Bitcoin YouTuber. So if you want to quickly talk about that, and I'll continue to ask you questions as you go. What was it, your initial the initial fight that you were fighting on Bitcoin? What was that all about? I mean, on YouTube.
A very, very good question. Well, one thing, if you want to see the archives and you can easily go to disruptmeister.com, and that'll show you all the Bitcoin videos. You won't have to worry about that Baltimore stuff. But I guess now it's been quite some time, like 10 years ago, I really got into Baltimore politics and I lived in a neighborhood. I created a project called the Buy a Block Project. A bunch of us all moved to this one block in this neighborhood called Reservoir Hill that had these beautiful big old houses in it. And we fixed up these old houses and made all this news. And it was such an adventure. And it got me into Baltimore politics, which is, again, I'm not a political person now. But when I was a little younger, I thought I could change the world. And so I did. I knew all these political people, and YouTube came around, and I thought, well, this is a good way to spread the word about some of this dirt I'm uncovering in Baltimore, because it's so corrupt, the political situation. But at the same time, I would show people the houses of Baltimore. And
now, did you have like what was your day job at the time? I did
marketing research for internet-based companies. Basically, I ran my own business.
Okay.
Yeah. I was self-employed for quite some time, so I kept my expenses down quite a bit. But yeah, I had my own business, saved my own money, and I owned that house. The house I got super duper cheap, and so that was very productive too. And I had my own karaoke. I could make money doing so many different things. I was just an entrepreneur. I was doing all sorts of stuff. But one of the big things that I did run an internet-based business that was a marketing research for software companies. That's what I called it. And we won't get into all of that stuff, because that's old. I got rid of all of that eventually. But the Baltimore politics, yeah. So I'm trying to change the world through YouTube videos about Baltimore, and at the same time on the ground. But the Baltimore people aren't too interested in Baltimore politics. I mean, they're interested in electing the same old people over and over again. It wasn't generating that much information. I mean, people would be like, "I love your channel. I love what you stand for." Yeah, they didn't really watch it.
Now, were you trying to kind of build up those blocks and get people to come in and move into those areas? Because it looked like where your house was. I only watched a few minutes of your earlier videos. I was inspired, so it looked like you were doing a good job. But I guess the idea was you were trying to get people to kind of come in and move into those impoverished areas. Was that?
Yeah, that's what I got done. I mean, we did that. We changed that whole block. The 20.
Oh, you accomplished it. You actually.
It was a great accomplishment. Yeah, it was great. We filled up, like, combined with my buddy Remington and everything. We filled up what was it, like 13 houses or something like that didn't have homeowner occupants beforehand. Some of them were totally fallen down completely. I mean, it made the news all over the place. It was big news in Baltimore, in the Sun. But again, this is at the start of that project, that Buy a Block project. The internet wasn't even a big source of news. It wasn't, now politically, I mean, you got to be on Twitter, you got to be on everything. Back then, there wasn't even Twitter at the start of the Buy a Block project. But when I was living in Reservoir Hill, there was, but it wasn't as big then. YouTube wasn't as big then. But the main point is I was writing blog articles too, and so I transitioned into YouTube, and people can see it. And I was trying to be creative. I would walk into really bad neighborhoods, because my neighborhood was all right, and show them what it really looked like. And I walked through the housing projects. I mean, this stuff is still there. I ran from one side of North Avenue to the other, which is North Avenue is like a legendary ghetto street in Baltimore. And I did. But I found that, long story short, by 2011, I had found out about Bitcoin. Sorry about the news. They're doing construction here in Australia. Pound that like button. And I found out about Bitcoin by 2011 through alternative economic sites. I guess I should mention, like in 2008, when we had the economic crisis, and I really started reading more about economics. That's when I became interested in alternative economics, but I was still doing the Baltimore stuff. But I would read a lot because I worked for myself. I had a lot of time to read alternative economic blogs like Market Ticker and Mish, and I discovered Doug Casey, and then eventually shadier people who, and it was, oddly enough, it was from a shadier dude that, I call them doomers. that just think they make their money off of some newsletters that the world is going to end and you got to buy gold. And look, the world doesn't end and you don't have to buy gold. I mean, that's what you learn 10 years later. But they've been talking about the same thing since the 70s and the 80s. Anyway, that's how I learned about Bitcoin. And 2011, 2012, I kept hearing about it here and there, and everywhere, but I didn't act upon it. And finally, in 2013, I got my first 2 Bitcoin at the end of in November of 2013, probably on this very day. What's the date? I think I got on the 16th of November. It was right around when Coinbase opened. And I had just gotten back from visiting someone in Detroit who I was quite close with. And and then the rest is it. Once I bought the first 2, I did my first video on the channel about Bitcoin. Okay. And I was still doing Baltimore ones, but then 2014 I did some more Bitcoin, and then 2015 more Bitcoin, and got rid of eventually 2016 I stopped doing the Baltimore stuff because I mean I was covering the election and nobody cared about that. Again, they elect the same people over and over and over again. But for me, the Bitcoin thing took off immediately. People became much more interested in Bitcoin than Baltimore, because Baltimore's just the only people are going to care about Baltimore people, and they don't care. But Bitcoin is a subject the whole darn world can get behind. And slowly but surely, the whole darn world did get behind it. And I was talking about the halving of 2020 before the halving of 2016. So it's been a fun adventure.
Yeah. So we had a very similar trajectory then, because that's what I was realizing as I was looking at your videos. Because I got in around the same time, like December 2013, Christmas morning is when I bought my first Dogecoin of December 2013. Which led me down the rabbit hole because I know I bought it on Christmas Eve, and then I woke up Christmas morning and all my Dogecoin were gone. I had bought $50 worth through somebody on Reddit using PayPal. It was my first experience on Reddit. I had come across Doge. I thought I had already missed the Bitcoin thing without understanding at all what Bitcoin was, not realizing it was distributed, and bought some Doge thinking I'd catch a little pump, make some money. And I bought $50 worth just for fun. And I woke up the next morning, I checked my Doge wallet online, and it was all gone. And I was like, there's no way this technology works like this. I was like, why are people, so excited about this if you could so easily lose your money? I was like, there must be more to it. I'm like, there must be something I'm missing here. And that's what led me down the rabbit hole. And I started understanding the encryption and the private key and the public key. And oh, wow, if you hold your own private key, there's really no way to ever lose your crypto. And that's when I then, soon after, maybe a week or 2 later, I bought my first Bitcoin. And like yourself, I went down the rabbit hole. But I guess what happened with me, and even in the early days, I'm sure you recall too, kind of on Reddit, on the Bitcoin forums, hearing about the concept of blacklisting Bitcoins. And in the early days around that time, 2014, it was kind of ignored. There were some people on Reddit talking about it, but it was like, don't worry about it. But it kind of struck me then, and not, like, oh wow, this is interesting. It's great. You hold your own keys. People can't take your Bitcoin. They conceivably can't stop you from sending it to somebody, but it's a little weird that every transaction you make is forever stored in this database for the world to view. And it really hit home for me when I experimented with sending Bitcoins. I sent a few to my friends, bought some stuff online. And as I was going through that process, I realized, wow, as I make this transaction, this is it. This thing's saved forever. And the people I'm sending money to could effectively look back and look at my wallets. Like I sent a friend, maybe $10 of Bitcoin. And I realized if this guy knew what he was doing, he could go look at my wallet and see how much Bitcoin I have, which is, granted he's my friend, but I don't see how this works then beyond that, outside of that sphere, right? How is this going to work on a global level where everybody's transacting and everything is being, traced and watched? And that was kind of the wake up call for me. And, I didn't get into Monero right then. I was still a Bitcoin maximalist, but did you have those kind of, seeing that we kind of started off on the same thing? Did you experienced those similar awakenings with what potentially might be the flaws of Bitcoin?
Well, I will tell you one of the things that really jumped out at me with that story is when I got into it at the same time when I bought my first two and you're buying your first Doge, there were plenty of people saying, "Oh, look, no, Bitcoin it's already done. We got to get into the next Bitcoin. We got to get into Litecoin." Now, I hadn't heard about. Well, I don't know if there was. Was it called Monero then? Was there? I remember when I heard about Monero for the first time. That was like in 2016. But I will tell you from the very beginning, there were people that were talking about we need something better than Bitcoin. It isn't as private as it should be, or the pump is already over. From one perspective, yeah, I had heard about alternatives. Now, was I worried about the blacklisting stuff? I read about the blacklisting stuff, but it didn't really scare me that much. And I think one of the reasons I might not worried about it as much as I didn't know as much about privacy then. I probably thought Bitcoin was a bit more private than it was. Right. I eventually found out about like what I remember from the privacy space is one of those shady characters talking about Darkcoin, which became Dash. And so that was my first intro, and that I knew that it could be more private. But I didn't experiment with it at all. But I mean, as time went on, this is an interesting progression. I started realizing that these altcoins, most of them were just like, well, what's the big difference between Litecoin and Bitcoin? I mean, silver to gold, I mean, what does it really do? The first little niche that I appreciated was the privacy niche. And I was talking about Dash, and Monero people started contacting me. They're like, no, there's another one. It's called Monero. And and people started sending me Monero. This was in 2016. So that's how I found out about Monero. And I really started seeing, well, there's a battle in this privacy front. It's not just Dash. It's these, and the Monero people would really battle the Dash people online. There'd be all sorts of stuff. So, but to this very day, I know that the privacy is something that Bitcoin could do better and could one day incorporate. So some of these altcoins are totally worthless, but I've always said that the privacy ones have a lot of potential and do have some value, especially until Bitcoin becomes more private in one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. So what do you see as, because for me, that was a real, awakening when I realized, like you said, I mean, I think a lot of people started using Bitcoin with the thinking that it is private and that it is true digital cash, just like I give you $100 in the real world. Nobody knows I transacted that $100 to you for all intents and purposes. With Bitcoin, that's not the case. So what do you see as the value proposition of Bitcoin? What is it what is the invention of Bitcoin, the invention of cryptocurrency?
Well, it just gets, for Bitcoin, it gets your value out of a bad situation, and it makes sure that you're always able to bring value to yourself. It's unconfiscatable, and it's uncensorable. The people, we've got a problem right now when people are relying on these centralized payment processors like PayPal to bring in their income on YouTube, and then they get cut off. There's nothing they can do. If PayPal cuts you out, you're totally reliant on them. That's it. But if you have a simple Bitcoin address or any crypto address, no one can stop that. No, especially Bitcoin. It's a way to store value and to get it across borders, since it cannot be physically taken away from you. It's in your mind. You store the private key in your mind. So those are the two big things that stay. I mean, again, preserving people's wealth in this time of inflationary and hyperinflationary currencies. You can also, if you want to, for some reason, you can do daily purchases with it. But it isn't. I mean, you're not private with it. It doesn't. If you want to hide all your financial transactions, it's not the thing for you. I mean, there are ways to become more private with it, but if you make one little mistake, that's it. It's all out there. It's a way to also keep since everything is public, you can account for other people's businesses. If people are trying to raise funds through Bitcoin, well, you can see if they're really doing it. You can see if they are really bringing in as much as they are, or if they're as desperate as they say they are.
Mm-hmm. But I agree. So I asked you the value proposition thing because that's what led me to Monero as well, right? So I agree. I believe the value proposition is the fact that it's censorship resistant and unconfiscatable, and that's really what the core of the invention is, right? Is you control your own money, you can send it at will to anybody else around the world, peer to peer, without going through a third party, and that will go from you directly to the other person, but don't you think there's so privacy aside, privacy is obviously a nice feature to have. I obviously fundamentally think it's important, but even if we're just talking about the unconfiscatable features and the censorship resistant features, don't those start to deteriorate once privacy doesn't exist? So ex post facto, I may send you, I could press a button, I could send you that Bitcoin from me to you. It's pretty hard for anybody to stop me from sending it. But now that they could go and look at the blockchain, see that, essentially, where we're at today, seeing that, most people purchase their Bitcoin through exchanges. So we all know who these people are. See that I sent my Bitcoin from me to you, and let's say it was for what is said to be something illegal. Ex post facto, they can find me, they can hunt me down, or they can find you and hunt you down and take those Bitcoins. So doesn't it lose that censorship resistance when it's not private, when it lacks those features?
Well, in a civilized country like the United States, they would see that we did an illegal transaction, and then they would come to me and they would issue a warrant for my arrest or something like. I mean, there would be they couldn't physically take the Bitcoin. They could threaten to put me in a cage, and at that point, I would leave. You can take your value with you. So they couldn't take the physical Bitcoin. They could figure out.
Well, they can. I mean, they find you. They could, say, Adam, give us your private keys. We saw that this transaction was sent to you. We viewed it on the blockchain.
That's I mean, in the United States, they can't they can't just do that. I mean, there's a rule of law here. There's they wouldn't come breaking down your doors and looking for your trésor at this juncture. And maybe you could give them your trésor, and it wouldn't mean anything. They couldn't get it. They would be unable to actually get the Bitcoin. You could give them a trésor. I mean, people have multiple storage devices. If it really came to that, where the government becomes that tyrannical, all right, where you see the government becoming that tyrannical, where they can just break into your house without a warrant, without anything, and demand money. I mean, you could have another.
Wasn't this done with gold at some point? Wasn't that something that happened? I think you had even spoken about once or twice.
Yeah, they confiscated gold. I mean, they literally could go into people's house and take and know the gold, but people knew it was going on. They were warned. They said we're doing gold confiscation. If all of a sudden they made Bitcoin illegal, or if they said we have a special law if you've sold drugs over the internet. With Bitcoin, we can immediately just break down your door at any time of night. People who would have done that should know to get out of the country now. To get out, if it's become that tyrannical, you get out now, and that's the beauty of Bitcoin. You could just leave the country, start anew in Australia, or start anew in South Africa, or wherever. I don't
right,
think
but I guess what my point, But why rely on the whole point of the cypherpunk movement and the crypto anarchist movement is to not have to rely on the law, right? It's to build code, to build technology that's agnostic to the law and just allows liberty to prevail through the technology itself. So rather than hoping that tyranny doesn't exist, America's great. We have our constitution. It's worked out pretty well. But other countries aren't as great. You look at countries like China or many countries throughout the world. I think isn't the whole idea, back to the value proposition of Bitcoin and crypto, is that through this technology, you own your own wealth and you're in total control of it. So why not use the most ideal form of that, which is something that takes into account maintaining people's privacy, which adds this extra layer of protection, makes it even more unconfiscatable and more censorship resistant.
This is the thing here. If the Bitcoin needs more privacy, it needs. There's no doubt about it that it needs to be more private. But your scenario that you're talking about is a government wrench attack. Any wrench attack, any person with any cryptocurrency is susceptible. If the government or some mafioso figures out you've been selling drugs for Monero, they can come to your house and with a wrench and torture you and say, "Give me that Monero too." And they could, the privacy mistake was the privacy. They might not found out that you did it through Monero, but they somehow figured out you were the guy online selling drugs, and they're just guessing that you must have done it through Monero. There's always going to be wrench attack options out there.
But with Monero, it's less, because you can just say, I lost my private keys, right? Now, if I lose my private key, no, you can't. You can't say that with Bitcoin, because then when they see your Bitcoin move 3 years from now, well, you obviously didn't lose your private keys.
But that's not a wrench attack anymore. You're out of the country by then. I mean, there's ways around your scenario. There's ways around, and then the wrench attack.
That would be quite difficult. That would be quite. If somebody came to you and you claim to have lost your Bitcoin private keys. We're talking about a government, whatever, and now if a year later you decide to actually move that Bitcoin, with the advancement in technology we're seeing with chain analysis, I mean, it would be like an alert on somebody's computer somewhere that Adam Meister just moved his Bitcoin.
I agree.
And as the world becomes more prone to surveillance overall, I'm pretty sure they'll know where Adam Meister is.
Okay. But there's two things here. So the scenario is, we can say government entity suspects you've been doing bad stuff with Bitcoin. They come to your house. You say you lost your private key. They leave. And then if the minute you move your private key, they know. The minute you move your Bitcoin, they know you were lying. And then they return and they capture you. Okay. With Monero, it's the same. They suspected you did something with Monero. You say you lost your private key. Okay. They leave you alone. And then you move your Monero in the future and they don't know because it was private. Okay. So you got away with it. But with the Bitcoin, but with the Bitcoin, after they left you alone, you leave the country. Okay. So you got to take an extra step to protect your Bitcoin from that wrench attack scenario. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. There's no doubt you have to take an extra step, but you'll still have your Bitcoin in the end of the day. You'll still have your Bitcoin in the end of the day under that wrench attack scenario.
Right. So I guess that's but
it's more. I mean, the argument that Monero is more private than Bitcoin. Yes, it is. Period.
Right. No. Yeah, and I don't expect you to disagree. And I've heard you say that on your show, and like I said, but I'm just wondering. Then in your logic and how you're making your decisions on which technology is superior and obviously you agree that the censorship resistant aspect of it is essential. That's what makes Bitcoin what it is. If it started to lose that ability, you probably wouldn't care about it as much. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to understand where you're drawing the line there. For me, it became important enough where I said, you know what? I feel like this flaw is big enough. The fact that it's not private on the protocol level, right? I know they're trying to do things with Bitcoin to kind of put a Band-Aid on it, and maybe there's different ways you could create privacy, but I personally don't believe it will ever be private on the protocol level. I would love to get your opinion on that.
No, it won't. I don't think it will be either.
So
it's a second-layer solution.
And then I personally believe that that's a fatal flaw to what it needs to be.
That's your opinion. It's so far that hasn't been holding Bitcoin back.
So
at all.
Yeah, what's the reasoning? What's the reasoning as to why it's not a fatal flaw then? Why is that not essential? Why is privacy, fungibility on the protocol level, why is that not essential? We agree that censorship resistance is essential.
Because the governments of the world haven't united in 100% tyrannical union. That's why. There'll always be a place where you won't have to worry about privacy, where it won't be. People are not worried about privacy right now. It's not something people worry about on any level. I think people should be more worried about privacy in everything that they do, but it's just not something that people are desperate for right now. People are desperate to protect their money from hyperinflation. People are desperate to control their own money and not have it in a bank anymore. People haven't come to that desperation yet when it comes to privacy. And Bitcoin is something that big financial players are flocking into, and they have a say in this too. And a lot of people would not flock into Bitcoin if it was private on the private level, on the protocol level. So I mean, this is a free market out there. The market has spoken so far, and the money has flowed, and interest has flowed into Bitcoin type of coins. And the privacy ones are niche ones. I don't see it evolving. I don't see it getting to a. I see it that there will always be people. There are so many blind people out there that do not care about privacy at all. It will never come to a point where that is people's number one concern.
Even like the wealthiest of the world that use Swiss banks and offshore accounts. Obviously, these people, the 20%ers of the world, as you would say. So yes, I understand the people that use Facebook every day. Yeah, they don't care about privacy, but that's why they're 80%ers. But the 20%ers that understand the value of it, and not so much about privacy in that, I just don't want people to know who I am, but privacy in that I want my money to be worth more than it is. And it's worth more than, $1 million that the world knows about isn't worth as much as $1 million that I know about and I control. There's a lot of liberty and power there in having that. And I imagine that the 20%ers of the world would see that as an advantage. So not so much as, not caring about privacy for, the philosophical reasons of why it may be important, but just literally dollars and cents, isn't it? Wouldn't you rather have $1 million that you can control without anybody knowing about, that you could freely send anywhere in the world? I mean, isn't there value there?
But it's a value proposition. There's a good value proposition behind these privacy coins. There really is. But is it? I mean, so some of these rich people, they pay their taxes. They're not trying to hide anything. Some will be interested in it. Let's see what happens if people do pile into. But there's a certain compliant millionaire and multimillionaire type of personality also, where they want to follow every single rule, but they want to be rich also. So they're going to stay away from the privacy aspects of these coins. It will scare certain people away. And the other thing I think I want to add, if the value proposition is so awesome, as you say it is, and that everyone will want to be into a Monero type of coin, then it will be incorporated into Bitcoin, perhaps in the base layer. But I just don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. So that is the glory of Bitcoin, that people are talking with this Mimblewimble technology, that it can be incorporated into the base layer of Bitcoin eventually. And they're experimenting with it on the Litecoin side. Now, again, I don't believe that there is going to be a worldwide demand for that to happen. I don't think there will be. But if there is, if your scenario comes true, if the whole world wakes up to like, all right, this is the better coin, we must have this type of privacy, then Bitcoin will incorporate it. And then the privacy coins will be pointless at that point. But I don't think it's going to happen. That's my take on it.
So why is it that you feel like Bitcoin will always evolve and incorporate whatever? Where's that logic coming from?
Well, it has the most people working on it by far. Has the most developers working on it. It has the greatest. Right now, I travel around the whole world. They talk about Bitcoin. They don't ask me about Mimblewimble or Monero or Dash or whatever. They're asking about Bitcoin. It's you go to. I went to, where was it? It was in I was in Hong Kong now over a year ago, and some guy asked me, how do I get the Litecoin version of Bitcoin? I mean, it's synonymous with cryptocurrency. It is the dominant one. And I don't see it losing its dominance at all. I mean, I interview people all over the world that are involved with deep finance, that are involved with DeFi, and the base is always Bitcoin. It's just not going to flip all of a sudden. It's not. We've had these threats of the flipping for so long. It keeps I say let them compete. Let them keep on coming up with all these altcoins. It's just no one has been able to even come close to climbing that mountain yet, and I don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening. It's just it's already staked out its position, and it's beaten so many different threats. All the other coins would have to beat out all those threats, figure out scaling, figure out all this stuff, and then somehow spread. I mean, it's highly unlikely. Something would have to break seriously with Bitcoin. I don't foresee that either because it's got the most people working on it, monitoring it right now. By the way,
go ahead.
Someone in the talk just sent $4.99 super chat. Grin Talk, his name is.
Grin Talk. Okay.
Yeah, he's talking about that somebody donated 50 Bitcoin to Grin, an original Bitcoiner, someone who got Bitcoin a long time.
I actually heard that. I actually saw Grin Talk the other day. Yeah, he's got a good up and coming show, Grin Focus.
Yes, I actually linked to it the other day, the Grin Talk guy. So
okay, yeah, I think that's where I discovered it. Yeah, on your show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, sorry to interrupt. He did the super chat though, but we're gonna switch. We're gonna switch to your channel soon too.
We could keep it. We could keep it here for simplicity purposes. No worries.
You know what? I mean, you don't want to be okay. I mean, that's fine. It's fine with me. It's fine with me.
You want to do it? Should we do the flip now? Then you want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, for you guys, you guys are so nice. You told me how to use this this Jitsi thing. So this is Jitsi we're using, everybody. So all you content creators, use this Jitsi thing. You can interview people again. We just had it. So here's the thing we're going to do. This is going to be the intermission. We're going to go to the Monero Talk channel now. Can you send me, before we get off air, in this little chat on the side, can you send me a link to your channel so I will just I'll put it in the regular chat so they can all go to your channel and watch the show over there. So
yeah,
here,
hold on a
second. Okay, you see it there? All right, dudes. This is good stuff. This is very good. People are interested in. Let's see while you type all.
So I'm gonna send it on the Jitsi chat. You got it? Oh no. Oh. Adam, you there? I think he's having some issues. All right, we'll kill it here and we'll come back.